Erik Halterman of RotoWire here with 6 players to pick up this weekend, starting with Robbie Ray, who's made 7 rehab starts as he makes his way back from Tommy John surgery and looks ready to return any day now. Ray was shaky in the last of those rehab starts, gave up 3 runs, worked just 3 innings, but on the whole, 24 strikeouts against just 2 walks in 16 innings. Sure looks ready to me. There's plenty of risk with anybody returning from Tommy John surgery. See Walker Buehler struggles this year for just the latest example. But there's tons of upside here with Ray. Since 2021, he's got a 3.31 ERA, a 1.13 whip, strikeout rate of 29.5%, and a walk rate a hair better than league average as well, which was a new development for him shortly before that injury. No prospect who you could be stashing at this point has that kind of upside, and Ray's got a great park in San Francisco to return to, so I'd be all over him if he's available in your league. Next up, Christian Scott of the Mets is back in the big leagues after having his innings managed in the minors during the month of June. Scott wasn't great in his first start back, but is scheduled to remain in the rotation and should have a chance to stick in the rotation for the remainder of the season. In 6 starts so far this year, he's been mediocre. 4.32 ERA, looks about deserved according to the ERA estimators. Pretty solid 1.14 whip. He's only walking 6% of opposing batters, but only striking out 20%. That strikeout rate should go up going forward though, because in 9 AAA starts this season, 33.5% strikeout rate to go with a 7.3% walk rate for Christian Scott, 2.76 ERA, 0.97 whip in those starts. Scott's the 9th ranked prospect here at RotoWire, the 2nd ranked pitching prospect behind only Paul Skeens, and he's not Paul Skeens, but he's as close as you're going to get among the prospect pitchers this season, so I'd go grab Christian Scott even after a shaky return to the majors. Next up, Dean Kremer is back in action after missing over a month with a tricep strain, and he'll get to return to one of the best possible combinations of home park and team context with the Orioles, so pretty much any back-end starter with Baltimore is interesting these days, and that's what Dean Kremer used to be, but he might not actually be that guy now. After a great start in his return with 8 strikeouts in 5 shutout innings, just 2 hits against the Mariners. He's got a 3.93 ERA and 1.09 whip in 10 starts this season. That's a pretty big improvement on his 4.35 ERA, 1.34 whip for Kremer prior to this year. The big change, his strikeout rate has gone way up. He was just shy of 20% prior to this season. He's up above 25% this year. That improvement comes as he's added a splitter, which normally is a pitch that gets more grounders, and hey, his ground ball rate is up too, and just having one more pitch in that arsenal seems to be helping him get whiffs as well. He's a new man, this version of Dean Kremer. Over to the hitters, let's start with Brooks Lee, infield prospect for the Twins, 38th prospect overall at RotoWire. He was the 8th pick in the 2022 draft, so a decent amount of pedigree here. Didn't get a ton of buzz, partially because of the crowd in the Twins infield, but the crowd has thinned itself out now with Royce Lewis on the IL yet again, this time with a groin strain. Brooks Lee is getting the chance to make third base his own, at least in the short term, and the question is, will he do enough to stick around in a meaningful role once Lewis returns? And he really might. Lee was limited to only 20 AAA games this season because he dealt with back issues early in the season, but hit .329 with an OPS over 1,000, 7 homers in those 20 games. Lee is more of a solid all-rounder than somebody with standout tools in any one area. He's not a true everyday player right now. He sat against the only lefty the Twins have faced so far while starting at third against a couple righties, but there's enough here to make you think he might be able to carve out a role for the second half with the Twins. Up next, we've got Parker Meadows, center fielder for the Tigers. Meadows very much a glove and speed first center fielder, and we've seen a lot of those fail this season. Your Esteury Ruiz, Victor Scott, Johan Rojas archetype, and Parker Meadows failed early this season as well. He was on the opening day roster with Detroit, lasted 32 games before being sent down while hitting .096 with a 4.43 OPS. Strikeouts were the major problem. He struck out 38% of the time in those 32 games, but since he's been down in the minors in 47 games, he's cut that strikeout rate in half, just 19%, hit .298 with 8 homers and 19 steals. Called back up again Friday and should get plenty of chances in center field, at least versus right-handers. That glove should keep him in the lineup even if the bat struggles, as long as he hits better than .096 with a 4.43 OPS like he did previously. And with the Tigers falling out of the race, they'll probably have a bit more patience should Meadows struggle. All he'll have to do is be okay enough and he'll get the playing time, and if he gets the playing time, he'll get you some speed. And finally, Andrew Vaughn, first baseman with the White Sox. He's in his 4th season and still just has a 728 career OPS. But if you look at his numbers this season, you may be misled about just how poor of a hitter he is right now. That's because he started this year quite poorly. Vaughn had a 497 OPS through the end of April. It was only .660 965 in the month of May, but in the month of June, a 933 OPS for Vaughn. Probably dropped in a bunch of shallow leagues in those first 2 months, but it's time to pick him back up because there seems to be something driving his recent success, and that is more aggressiveness. Since June 1st, he's only walking 3.5% of the time. That's half of his 7% walk rate through May 31st, but he's also cut 5 points off his strikeout rate, which now sits just above 19%. Dig a little deeper, and he's swinging more at pitches outside the zone and swinging more at pitches inside the zone. It's somewhat of a neutral change, but it seems to be working for him now. Maybe being more aggressive and just hunting the pitches he can do damage on earlier in the count is what Andrew Vaughn needs to unlock the potential that he was supposed to have. Remember, this was the 3rd overall pick in 2019. I can't see him living up to his draft day pedigree, but the Andrew Vaughn we've seen over the last month plus is better than his overall season numbers. For more names, check out the Saturday edition of the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast with me and Ryan Boyer.